Hello. Today we're going to do a fish pie. Fish pie is one of the dishes that my mother taught me how to cook, and I'm going to visit her and my father today. She's not very well, so I thought a fish pie would go down well. Right, what I've got here is some smoked haddock. It's about 500 grams of nice fillet you can get in the supermarket. And make sure you get the undyed smoked haddock. I think those bright yellow smoked haddocks are just horrible. And then a nice piece of cod. Now it doesn't have to be cod, it can be just any type of white fish, whatever's good value at the time when you go. Now we start off by cooking the fish just gently for about 10 minutes in the oven. The oven's at 180 in a baking tray. I'm going to cut my fish so that it fits in, or you can use a much bigger dish if you want to. So I'm just going to lay my fish into the baking dish, go like this, very haphazard, and then I'm going to pour on a pint, what's that, 500 millilitres of milk on top of the fish, and it's going to gently poach in the fish. And the milk then gets infused with a lovely fishy taste. I'm also going to add some peppercorns, just because I like to have a little bit of added flavour into my milk, and a couple of bay leaves, but they're just really extras. And then I'm going to put this into the oven. Now I'm actually making double the quantities today, so I've already got some fish that's been cooking in the oven, so I'll bring that out so that I can then continue with the next part of how to do this. Right, so this is the board for my hot dish. Right, so here's the fish that I've just cooked. In goes the next lot. Right, now this is perfectly cooked now. It's been in there for literally just 10 minutes. And what I'm going to do now is just pour off the milk into a measuring jug or a bowl or whatever you want, and then the fish is just left until it cools, and then we can flake it and take out any bones there might be. Right. Excellent. Right. So while that fish is just cooling down, we're now going to make the base of the fish pie, which is the white sauce. White sauce is a really useful thing to learn how to make, because you can use it in all sorts of things. Make a lovely cheese sauce for your lasagna, cauliflower cheese, all sorts of things have the base of a white sauce. So I'm going to start off with 50 grams of butter, and I'm going to put that into my saucepan and just gently heat it up. And while the butter's melting, I'm also then going to get on with making the mash that's going to go on top of the fish pie. Right. Another chopping board. I do have rather soft chopping boards. Right. Okay. So for my mash, I just get the packets of potatoes. I don't bother peeling them. Frankly, most of the goodness, vitamins tend to be in the skin of a potato anyway, so I just chop them up roughly and put them into boil, and then just mash them up with some butter. So that we'll get that on the go. See how my butter's doing. Right, so the butter's melting nicely, and I'm then going to add to the butter a couple of tablespoons of plain flour, which I've got here. And then we're going to create what's called a roux. You might have seen this in some recipe books. It's a smart word for just melted butter and flour just gently cooked together, and that's the base of a lot of sauces, but particularly a white sauce or a bechamel sauce, or people call it all sorts of different things. And honestly, once you've mastered a white sauce, which is incredibly easy, All you're doing is you're melting some butter, you're adding some flour, you cook them together, and then you're adding liquid. And in this case I'm adding the fish-infused milk. And you slowly add that and stir it. And if you get lumps, you know, just whisk them, or if the worst comes to the worst and you've still got lumps at the end once it's thickened up, you just sieve the lumps out and use your scissors. It really couldn't be easier. Right, so we'll add 2 tablespoons of flour to the 50 grams of butter. You don't need to be exact when you're making, you know, these sort of quantities. Once you start making white sauce, you'll get used to how to make it basically, and sort of the quantities you want to use. But that just gives you a base. Alright, so I'm just stirring them together and they thicken up, and you do want to just cook, at this stage you just want your butter and the flour to cook together just briefly. Yeah, that's great. And then I'm just going to gradually add in the milk. And I'm just going to turn that down a bit. Stir, because there's often when I make a white sauce I'll start with cold milk, but because this milk was warm because it's straight from the oven, it's actually cooking pretty quickly. Just going to add all that in. There we go. And it's coming together quite quickly. And if I feel that the texture's not quite right, that I haven't got enough milk from the fish, I can just go and, you know, just add some hot water or a bit more milk, whatever you want to do. Right, I do need to get my potatoes on, so we'll get that boiling, get these cut up quickly. Now I've got about a kilo worth of potatoes here because I'm doing double, so you probably just need, again, with the mash that you want to put on top of your fish pie, it depends on the shape of your dish. So I'm actually making 2 lots here, so I'm making one that's quite a shallow dish. Now that'll need quite a lot of potato to cover it. And then this one, this little dish here, is sort of deeper but with a smaller round on the top, so that'll need less potato. So it's entirely up to you how much you add. Now the smaller you cut your potato, the quicker you'll get your mash. So probably a bit of a rush, always in a rush. So I'm just going to cut these a little bit smaller than I had them before. That'll do. That's this little lot started, and then add the rest. You can add your potatoes to cold water, you can add your potatoes to boiling water. It's entirely up to you. This water's quite hot. I put the water on to heat up before I got my potatoes ready. Right, my white sauce has gone really nice and lumpy. So it needs a good stir. It's getting smooth all over again. So it's a very forgiving sauce, I find. Right, so let's get these potatoes in. A few more of them. Oh, there goes the fan. Alright, just add this little lot. There we are. Now, the other thing that I'm going to add to the potatoes towards the end of the cooking time are some eggs, because I like to have hard-boiled eggs in my fish pie. So that will work quite well. So we'll do that in a minute. Once the potatoes, because the eggs only need, what, 6 or 7 minutes? So in about 5 minutes time I'll add them. The other thing I also like adding to my fish pie are prawns, but that's completely up to you. They just add a really yummy extra bit to your fish pie. Right, I'm just going to add a bit more milk. There we go. I'm going to put the lid onto my potatoes so that the water boils more quickly. Right, how are we doing here? Okay. Not bad. Now, with your fish, I'll put this fish into this dish here. I use my fingers, so you're flaking it off the skin into reasonable sized chunks. You don't want it to be too small, but as you go, just feel and look for bones, because you really don't want, particularly from smoked haddock and cod, they've got quite large bones, so just keep an eye out for the large bones and make sure you've extracted them before you put your fish into your dish. So you're just gently doing this. Now there are hundreds of recipes for fish pie. Lots of people don't pre-cook their fish, but I find pre-cooking it actually keeps your fish much moister in the end. But it's an entirely personal thing. People add all sorts of things to their fish pie. You can add cheese into the sauce, a bit of mustard. You can add some spinach into your dish instead of, say, the prawns. It's a very, very flexible dish, so make it your own and enjoy it. Right, so this smoked haddock, which I absolutely love, doesn't seem to have any bones at the moment, so that's good. Right, a little bit more. I'm going to put the bits and pieces in here. Now the cod, just be careful, it's still quite hot, so don't burn yourselves. And this is really flaky. Whoops. Right. Everything seems fine at the moment. And I can just tell that my sauce is getting thicker and thicker. And again, how thick you want your white sauce on your fish pie is entirely up to you, but when you add it to your fish and your egg and all the rest of it, it does tend to thin down a bit, so don't get your sauce too thin. Make sure it's nice and thick, because it will thin down slightly. I tend to make my sauce a little bit thinner than my mum does, but today, because it's for her, I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. Right, okay, carry on with this fish. There we go. There, nearly all done. Right, so you just don't want the skin in your dish. There we are. Perfect. Okay, and then I'm going to add the prawns into that. Just mix it all in. Right, so we'll put the eggs into the water with the potatoes and make that can hard boil. Right, just going to wash my hands from all that fishy milk. Right, and now I've just got a little bit of milk still left in the pan here, so I'm just going to add that. Perfect. So while we've been doing this, the other batch of fish would have cooked. I think. Oh yeah, so I'm going to turn that all off and get that dish out, which I'll use for my second pie. So that can just sit there. And I'm actually going to cheat and use I need a little bit extra milk over here. So I'm just going to add this milk direct. There we are. Okay. This sauce is so nearly done. Great. Okay, so just give this sauce another thorough stir, and all the lumps have now come out, which is great. And then I'm going to pour it over the fish and the prawns. Now, I didn't sieve that last bit, so you do need to sieve your milk, particularly if you've used peppercorns, so just put that back in there. Just be careful. hear doors opening in the background. Here we go. Right. And then you just gently stir in your fish, your prawns, into the white sauce. I haven't added salt because the smoked haddock is plenty salty enough, and I really don't think it needs it. If you feel, if you taste it and you think actually it's a bit bland, then add a little bit of lemon juice rather than salt, and that just picks it up. Right. So I'm just going to do a quick clear up here. It's all a bit messy. And then we'll see how the potato's doing. And then, honestly, we just mash the potatoes and put them on top, and then you've got your fish pie. And that really hasn't taken very long at all. So let's just check the potatoes. This is a slightly excessive knife to check my potatoes. Just want to see if they're ready to be mashed. They're not. Okay. So I'm not going to wait until they're done, but honestly, once the potatoes are done, you mash them with some butter and then put them on top of your fish pie. And that's your fish pie ready, and you can put that in the fridge until you want to have it later on, say that evening, or put it in the freezer for another day. And then once you want to cook your fish pie to finish it off, you put it in the oven at 180 for about half an hour, maximum 20 minutes to half an hour, until the top of your potatoes are nice and sort of got brown crinkles on them. And when you put your mash on, it's entirely up to you, but you can make it look pretty with a fork, and do nice pretty patterns, whatever takes your fancy. The other thing is, you can do this fish base and then put it in the freezer and add your mashed potatoes at another date. It's a very, very easy, great family dish, so I hope you enjoy it.